Hey, money magicians, how are you? I'm taking off my glasses because they're reflecting. Welcome to today's episode of the Money Magic series. I think this is episode 21 or 22. Oops, I know I should have checked before I started this. But my guest today is Yanga, and my name is Vangile Makwakwa. If you've just joined, I do this Money Magic series with my clients and with students, asking them about their journey around working with me, what they've learned about money, what they've learned about money trauma and ancestral trauma. And what I do is I help women of color heal ancestral money stories so that they can fall in love with their bank accounts, increase their income, and live their best lives. So, without further ado, let me welcome Yanga, our guest for today. Hello, Yanga. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to have you. Like, I cannot believe that I've actually sat down with about 20 students and clients just talking about money and ancestral trauma. And it has been wow to me. So thank you for saying yes to this.
I mean, thank you for doing that work because the value that I've been able to extract just from watching the interviews and learning from what other people have learned from their own journeys has honestly been incredible. So thank
Yeah, hey, and that's the thing. It's like you're learning from people who are on this journey, knowing where they started, and then seeing where they are and them sharing their stories. I personally, I don't know about other people, but personally, I love hearing people who are on their journey and like listening to stories from real people on the journey doing the work because the insights are so profound. Sometimes when you're already out there and you've already like shifted and transformed so radically and you're really at the top, there's so many things that we don't get to hear like real life about what's going on in the trenches on the journey.
because that's what I'm saying. It's so much value because it's almost as if it's added extra bonus on top of just like the course itself that you do from you. And I mean the fact that we have a community, of women of color whom you can then go to the private Facebook community that we've created to just
Yeah.
have discussions is just it's honestly very special to have as well.
Yeah, I feel that way, even though like technically I created the community, but it's not me that makes the community, right? It's these incredible souls and these women who are like, I want to have a conversation. I want to share this journey with others. So, Yanga, without further ado, who are you? How would you describe yourself?
So I like to describe myself as just a daughter, a sister, and a friend, first and foremost. And then in terms of what it is that I do, I am a partner in a geology and mining services consulting firm. And I'm an international award-winning social entrepreneur. And my real passion is working with women mostly in villages, helping them create and start sustainable businesses using the resources that they have at their own disposal within their communities, and also just taking into account the problems that they have in the communities and helping them create solutions that can bring them profits and help them sustain their families.
Mm. Wow, this is amazing. But I also know that through your journey, you've become a coach, right? So, can you tell us what led you to that? What led you to coaching? And also, your focus is on not good enough, the not good enough wound. Why that particular wound?
Okay. So what I was actually about to say just before you asked the second question was I'm also a coach and I hold space for women of color to feel seen
Yeah.
values, rest, and balance.
Yeah.
Um, and what led me to start coaching, geez, I think it's so layered for me, but my journey to heal my own pain and my own suffering was
Mm.
leading me to this work. So I suffered a lot of abuse from my mother,
Yeah.
physically, verbally, when I was a child, just like from the age of 5, um, really up until my adulthood. Um, I was humiliated a lot. She shouted at me a lot. She beat me up a lot. I had a loving and present father, but I really just craved the attention and validation of my mother. And I mean, growing up, the stories that you told about what relationships with mothers need to look like were
Mm.
different to what I was experiencing at home. And
Yeah.
I then just carrying this shame and this darkness and this sadness, even as a kid from those experiences. So later on in my adulthood, it really just became worse and worse. Um, and I became suicidal. I had probably attempted to commit suicide at least 3 times by the time I was in matric.
Gosh. My goodness.
Um, I started drinking a lot to try cope with the pain.
Yeah.
It was really, really dark. I didn't see why I needed to exist because it just felt like there was a void within me. And there was really no point in me being alive. And I remember a time when my dad passed away in 2015, and I was
Mm.
accused of conversations around distributing the estate and even just sharing the estate itself, and that was devastating to me. However,
Mm.
it was 20 years that I
Oh,
started.
wait. Sorry, Yanga, we're losing you sound wise. Okay, so we just lost a little bit. Can you please repeat about the distribution of the estate?
So, in 2015, I lost my father, and again, I was just excluded from conversations around the distribution of the estate. I
Yeah.
was also just excluded from the actual distribution, never mind the conversation. And
Yes.
no one really told me what happened, but I was aware that certain children in the family had benefited. And
Yeah.
obviously, this really led me to really believe that surely I didn't matter, and my life didn't matter.
Sure.
And it was a very dark place. And
Yes.
yeah, and I really didn't know how to pull myself out of it. Later that year, by the grace of God, I read a book. I think it's titled Dimples and Eye Bags by the book says
By
Bonnie.
Bonnie. Yeah, by Bonnie Mbuli. Yeah.
And I mean, in the book, the author described a very similar. I saw some of my experiences in the book, and
Yeah.
when she spoke, friend having referred her to or suggested or her to go see a therapist, and then
Yeah.
receiving help from a psychiatrist with like medication, and then starting to do some work and feeling better. I, for the first time, felt like there was hope, like there was a lifeline. And this is
Yeah.
after getting therapy and actually just started hiring coaches to work with and started really
Yes.
searching all the information that they were telling me about what I was experiencing. And I was just learning more and more about it. And then ultimately,
Wow.
I decided that I want to do this work. And that's why specifically the not good enough wound, because that is the wound that I've spent so many years just trying to work through. And I've just realized
Yes.
that in shapes, forms, and ways, it tends to
Yeah.
show up for Black women in our.
Yes. Yes. Wow. So, Yanga, your story is wow. I feel like you're going to just this interview is going to touch so many women. I actually resonate with your story of just like a mom who is abusive emotionally, verbally. I resonate a lot with public humiliations, like my failures being published, to everyone. If I did anything wrong, everyone got to know about it. And the aim, like most times when my mother did that, wasn't necessarily to educate me or get me to change my ways. It was literally to humiliate me. So I learned to live life in two ways. One way is hide every imperfection, right?
Mhm.
Hide every mistake, run, like make sure that she never knows what if I do anything wrong, because that is so dangerous and so unsafe, and it leads to this public humiliation. And the other part is it just taught me to invisibilize myself, so I resonate so fully with why your work is around the not good enough wound, and why the aim of healing not good enough also leads to this visibility, to allowing ourselves to be seen. So, can you take us a little through your journey of healing the not good enough wound? What were some of the things that you realized? Like, how was it playing out in various facets of your life? Because some of us are walking around with the abuse and we think we can just pray it away. That's what I hear a lot of people say, like, I'll just pray it away, make me a better person, God, take it away. And why doesn't that work? You know? So, wow. Let's have that conversation actually. Yeah.
I cannot forget to say, you shared a resource on YouTube where there was a lecturer who was explaining trauma in a way that
Yes.
just makes sense like daylight to me. And
Yes.
I have to say, guys, join Vangile's group because, of course, there's all of these resources there, right? So, anyways, on the group, you shared this resource, and I remember watching it, and there was this lecturer who was talking about trauma and how there are trauma cycles. So, whenever
Yes.
you are in a situation or you have a traumatic experience, if you don't come back to complete the trauma cycle, and then how you can do that is a different conversation. But if you don't come
Yes.
back to complete, it stays open. And then
Yes.
even years going by, it doesn't close if you don't come back to revisit that bit of trauma and
Yes.
around closing that cycle. And what happens then
Yes.
that I really felt like that it made so much sense why, although I was a 30-year-old or 29-year-old at the time,
Yeah.
I still was absolutely behaving as the scared
Mm.
7-year-old. Really learned how to survive by being unseen, just sitting down, saying nothing, not trying
Yeah.
to be way, not trying to disagree with anyone.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's why it's so important to specifically do this work because unless you go back to that trauma cycle and you do the
Mm.
work to you cannot shift.
Yes. Yes, I really, really agree with that, because all that's happening is most of us are still stuck in the trauma. So you're growing up, your physical body is growing up, but your subconscious is still like in survival mode. It's like at least for me, what I know is that had a difficult time allowing someone into my life, like allowing people into my life really closely, especially to know certain things about me, because what if they find out these things and then they'll make them public and actively humiliate me? So now it won't be humiliating on a small scale because we are in the age of social media. It's going to be on a larger scale, right?
Yeah.
So it's huge. And how did the not good enough wound start to impact your finances, even your relationships with other people? How did it play out for you?
I think that the biggest thing for me was that in terms of my relationships, I also experienced quite a similar thing to what you described.
Mm.
Um, like I say, that like even from the age of 7 already, I had
Yeah.
learned to like 7-year-old, 6-year-old friends about what
Yes.
my was like or about what my holidays were like, because
Sure.
I couldn't be the only child to say that I had experienced a holiday where I was beaten up. I couldn't remember. I was closed in a room, or that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
it seemed like it was taboo to say anything
Yes.
about, because I think the first few times you try to tell the truth, and then you realize that people's reactions aren't
Mm.
like, people are like, how can you say that about your mother? So
Yeah.
then you really start to lie about not only that, but you start to omit and twist and tweak. Personally, that's what I
Yes.
went through. Certain
Yes.
experience, certain parts of me and my
Yeah.
life, just so that I
Yes.
could be accepted.
Yeah.
That happened. So I really was living in a place of inauthenticity because I could not
Mm.
accept myself. That's one thing. But I also was at a place where I believed that I needed to perform a certain state of being in order to be worthy of acceptance from others, which is what I had
Yes.
learned from home. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that goes hand in hand with creating money. Um, so absurd because once you become yourself and once you
Mm.
tell your story, it is so ironic how many people want to work with you because they resonate with that. And it is,
Yes.
but the also not only just that, but like the value that you're able to give to people by sharing
Yeah.
your story. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, where someone shared her story so vulnerably, and it helped me,
Yes.
it possibly saved
Yes.
my life. And
Yeah.
I, by really just owning who we are, there's value in that.
Yes.
In terms
Yes.
of boardrooms, Vangile, I could not negotiate pricing. If
Mm.
I what the value is, and if the next person in the boardroom is like, okay, no, we're not going to give you that, we're going to give you this, that was where the conversation would end. Because I
Yeah.
just, I don't even think I felt I was worthy to be paid um, for the value of the full value of my services. You know, and I
Yeah.
was constantly doing free work just so that people would like me, or
Yeah.
I believed that I needed to constantly be doing things for other people at my own.
Yes. Yes. But that is so, I love that you just mentioned that because the core of the not good enough wound is that constantly giving free stuff, constantly doing free work, constantly needing to be validated because the greatest fear is that I mean, we already have this belief that we're not good enough. So the greatest fear is that now other people will validate it. And it's not just our mothers that tell us that we're not good enough. It's now the world is going to tell us, and that's going to make it true. So, yeah, I also struggled with that. It was so scary to just give people my pricing and to just say no. No was one of the hardest things because no meant that I wouldn't be liked. And if I'm not liked, then I'm not good enough. My entire thing was constantly trying to get validation externally because there is such a deep trauma to, especially when a parent rejects a child in some way and hurts them and like literally hurts them from for being themselves. Like that is has always been the biggest challenge with my mother is that who I am is not someone that she can resonate with or understand. So it has always been if you can't change her, humiliate her, make her feel bad, right? And I resonate with that so deeply, what you said about you couldn't tell adults what was going on. And even adults within our own families are observing this, but nobody wants to say, listen, it's not okay to beat her. Like there was a time when my mom beat me so badly. I was so bruised, and I went back to school, and my ear was like completely messed up. I couldn't hear out of one ear. And I couldn't tell anyone at school what was happening. And then how this all stopped eventually was I got to high school in grade 8, and she beat me and slapped me right before I got to school. Like we were actually late because of that. And then I told the whole school and I tried to get her arrested. And that was that for me. You know, like we have such an intense history, my mother and I, where like I brought cops, everything. And I must have been like 13 and I started fighting my own battles, you know? And I think that's what abuse and not good enough does. It's like when you've been that intensely abused, is that even as a 13-year-old, I shouldn't have had to be dealing with cops. By the time I was 14, I got myself into a psychology program. I got myself a psychologist. I figured out that there was something wrong and that I needed a psychologist, and I signed up for it and my dad paid for it. So there's like all these things that we end up doing where you're not an ordinary child and you're learning how to hide this from everybody else. And then you live most of your adult life like that. So,
Hmm.
wow.
Oh, it's so bad that for me, I also realized that it had a further link to money and how
Yeah.
I hate around money and why it is that I felt like I always need to work for money. I need to work not only just for the approval, but money to meaning safety. As soon as I
Yes.
got it meant that I had the security to leave. And whenever
Yes.
I remember deciding, like I remember making that decision as a child, because whenever she felt threatened, as if I could expose her, or whenever I wanted, because sometimes on several occasions I actually ran away from home when she got very violent. I would run
Same.
away, go to a friend's house, run away, or go to one of my family's house, and not even tell them. I'd be like, "No, guys, I'm here to visit," and have a lie so that they don't take me back home.
Yeah.
And um, on these many occasions, I realized that, oh my gosh, my one way ticket out of this place is to make my own money. When I start to make
Yes.
my own money, she will have absolutely no hold over me because she was just like, well,
Yes.
if you don't get away, who's going to pay your fees? Who's going to feed you? Who's going to like you at the home? So I was just like, that's why I need to make money. I always
Yes.
have to be making money because I
Yes.
cannot not. Because if I'm not making money, I will be subjected to that sort of treatment, to that
Yep.
sort of dismay. So, I mean, the
Oh.
story created and the value that are put on money or itself has also been
Yeah.
informed by trauma.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, by the time I was 17, I had a job, had enrolled myself into UCT, had my own apartment. I was living in Cape Town in my own apartment. And then by the time I was like 19, I held down three jobs, including an office job. Because of that, it was like, do or die. I am never going back to that situation, whatever it takes. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, even if it means I have to sleep on the streets in Cape Town to get this degree, I am not going back because the trauma is so intense, right? And I don't know about you, but I know, like, coming from an abusive background and also the not good enough story, it's just like you're always on edge, especially with a mom that is, I mean, any parent, it could be any adult that is constantly abusive. It's like so difficult to relax. I still, till this day, some of the Money Magic students know this, I share in the student group, but I still wake up in the middle of the night, like with panic attacks, and have to do breath work and EFT tapping because I am so scared. Like my inner child is so terrified of my mother. Till this day, with all the work I do, I mean, now it's definitely lessened. It happens maybe when I'm super triggered, then I can't calm down. Then my coaches get me to calm down. And then I go to acupuncture as well. My acupuncturist says she can see from my body. This is what's so crazy, right? My acupuncturist looked at my body and she said, have you gone through intense abuse, especially childhood abuse? And I said, yes. How can you tell? And she said, there are points in the body that are deepened because it's like my body has been doing this for so long, has been crouching for so long. So there are points on the tummy where they can see that, like, you've been trying to protect yourself for years, and that comes from consistent years of abuse. So we've been working on healing my body and helping those points just be normal. I used to think that was normal, by the way.
I,
So
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I mean, I was sharing not so long ago that when I started doing this work,
Mm.
I could I thought I had a severe IBS problem.
Mm.
Sorry. I thought I had a severe IBS problem and that I probably just needed to like I mean I relied on laxatives so much. I at least had to
Yeah.
take a tea bag of senna. Um
Yes.
like tea before bed or in the morning just to help regulate my system. And I didn't realize that that too was a side effect of childhood trauma.
Yes.
So I really do agree with you in that you feel it in your body. And I mean, I
Yeah.
used to have these back pains, like that would come from the top of my spine, just right to my tailbone. And I never knew, I suspected, okay, was it years of carrying my backpack when I was at school with all your
Yeah.
sports uniform and your files, everything? And it
Yeah.
only registered to me that it's been that trauma. It's really just been stuck in different places in my body.
Yes, yes, it is that intense. And I also want to stress that actually, when I talked to my acupuncturist, she said she didn't know if it's verbal, emotional, or physical abuse. She just knew it was some type of abuse. And she said the body registers it the same. You know, like you try to protect yourself the same. So sometimes parents are not beating their kids, but the words they use are so violent that it lands as violence on the body. And it's like the child has to protect themselves and the body starts to change. I mean, when she said that, and she could, like, literally just from reading my body, almost trace when this abuse started, the prolonged abuse. I was just like, wow. So the body tells a story. And like a lot of people that do like acupuncture and other somatic work can almost see in the body. Like she was saying that for some people, some acupuncturists are so advanced, just by the way you're walking, they can tell the kind of trauma that you carry because it changes the way that we walk, the way that we carry ourselves, right? And I know from trauma informed yoga specialists, they've also said that it's, I mean, like, wow. So trauma is very, very real and it lives in the body. And these stories, and I love how you talk, how we're talking about like how this constant abuse of a child eventually leads to this not good enough wound, especially from a parent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, wow. Thank you for sharing that, Yanga. I wanted to also get into the other stuff. We'll keep coming back to not good enoughness, right? Because I think this is the, I feel like almost every interview has a common thread that is set by the guest, not me. But I wanted to know, what does money mean to you now? I know as a child, money meant freedom, and I resonate with that a lot. But has that changed now as you've gone on your healing journey?
Um, so it still does, to be quite honest, to a big part, because although my I've restricted the amount of access that my family has to me now, so
Mm-hmm.
to protect myself, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
still does mean that sense of safety, security. I mean, I've always vowed to myself that no matter what,
Yeah.
I that's not where I'm going, you know.
Yeah.
But also, I think now I understand money in a different way because I like also just like having learned through, like I said, some of the live classes that we hold, that everything is energy. I mean, I did a science degree, so to some extent I understood that, but I didn't really understand that even money is an energy that you can
Yes.
achieve your vibration,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
I understand money differently now. So it is generally an energy that we can exchange to obtain goods and services sometimes, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In the
Wow.
generally, like in the broad.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that as well. Like, it's always so fascinating to me how money is different things to all of us. But I agree with money is completely freedom, because without money, some of us would not have been able to leave some situations. And it's not just childhood abuse that money gives you freedom from. Sometimes as adults, we get ourselves into situations where having money can really be the difference between leaving now or staying and risking our lives for another year or two as we get ourselves in order. It's such an important topic to have, especially in connection to abuse. I don't think that we ever really talk about it in the sense that, like, yeah. So yeah, no, and I wanted to say I also resonate with that. Pardon?
If I had money as a 14-year-old, 13, 14, I would have left.
Yeah,
I would have paid for my own
same.
ticket. Like I was actually quite responsible, you know. That whole experience taught me to grow up very quickly.
Yeah,
So the thing really was just that I did not have the resources to hold it down wherever.
yeah, yeah. And that's true for me too. Like, I feel like I remember being 14 and combing through newspapers to work in Iceland to try and get a job packing fish in Iceland. I was like, and they're like, no, you need parental signatures for that. I was like, no, you don't understand. But it's so intense, hey? So I resonate with the money as freedom and money as energy now that I do this work. So when did you start suspecting? Because you already knew that, oh my God, I need to get my money in order because money is freedom. But when did you start suspecting that there may be more to money than a budget, hard work, numbers on a screen?
Suspecting this issue.
Yes. When did you start suspecting that money was more than just numbers on a screen, working hard and budgeting?
In relation to what, Van? Sorry, please rephrase the question because I'm not sure I understand.
Okay. So when did you start suspecting that your money story wasn't just about the money? That it wasn't about your budgeting, it wasn't about working hard, it was about so much more.
Okay. So, for me, I had generally just realized, okay, so I'd been able to work for the money and let the money come in. That was good. I was using money as soon as it came in, I would spend it.
Yeah.
And I started to have issues with invoicing people, but that was also just necessary. Almost, it felt normal to me not to be
Yeah.
able to ask for my money and not
Phew.
because it seemed as if it would upset people or it would inconvenience them in some way and that sort of thing.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm not sure how to do this because I remember the first time I called you up before I
Yeah.
signed up for one-on-one coaching. I
Yeah.
was just like, I've been sitting in bed for 2 days, literally.
Yeah.
Up, okay, cool. Today I need to invoice clients, blah blah blah, and I would just be procrastinating
Yeah.
doing everything. So I take my shower, I start preparing to open my workstation, I do emails, I procrastinate, do everything else but the invoicing. And then I'll be like,
Yes.
okay, actually, I might need a nap. Close my curtains, plump into bed, and be like, yo, okay. Didn't have the language for it. And I was just like, yo, like my heart would just do like a gadong, 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 like, and I would just
Yeah.
panic. And I
Yeah.
really didn't, I was just like, could this be something normal? But also just having a constant fear or like
Yeah.
just constantly being scared because of the anxiety due to childhood trauma, etc., was
Yeah.
almost a normal feeling for me. I was constantly just like anxious, scared the entire time.
Yes.
What could happen? What could happen? What could
Yeah.
happen? So when that happened, I wasn't sure. But when I came across, when I found you basically online,
Yeah.
and I heard you speak about money trauma, and I didn't hear much, but I just heard you tell the first time. I don't know what I was doing, and then all I heard was you narrating a story where you were sitting on the side of a pavement, and you could not.
Yes.
I was like, wait, I need to listen to this lady. What is she saying? Because I definitely that. What is she saying? And then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so this is a problem, you know?
Mm.
And there are people who know how to help you heal and deal with this problem. Then I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, yep, I've had an issue for a while. So I think another thing for me was that I had the problem, but
Mm.
I just wasn't hearing anyone else talk about that sort
Yeah.
of thing. I was just looking around me and I was like, well, actually, let me keep quiet. And I wasn't reading any book, anything talking about resolving this type of issue. So it was literally
Mm.
the first time where I had heard someone speak about an experience that was so similar to mine, but
Mm.
also speak of the solution in such a different way that I
Yeah.
instantly knew that it wasn't because I didn't know how to invoice. That was for sure. I knew how to computer. That was for sure. I
Yeah.
knew these things, right? But
Yeah.
then what was the issue?
Yeah. Yeah. It is so deep that you say that, hey, because I think that's the thing. It's funny how many entrepreneurs come to me because I've actually written a blog post on the fear of invoicing and my story around that because it's so similar. It's like, I would, if I would, so maybe I would invoice after maybe like 2 weeks going back and forth, and then I would never follow up with invoices because I
Mm,
didn't want to bother anyone. Because what if they get upset? Because what,
yeah.
when we have the background that we have, what do we know? When adults get upset and get annoyed, they get violent. So it escalates. It's never resolved in a calm manner. So obviously it would be scary for my inner child or my inner teen to want to follow up on the invoice or to want to send the invoice, because what if I send the invoice and they see it and they get upset and annoyed and then they go violent and ham on me? So that is one of the greatest fears. So most of us are not even aware, because we have, like, we've seen how asking for money within our families would make people go berserk. Oh my God, money doesn't go in trees. It would just escalate because money was a trigger for the adults in our lives. So now anything to do with asking for money is really, really scary, puts us in the most defensive and protective mode, and leads to procrastination. It's not normal that it should unregulate our nervous system like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because again, something else that I'm thinking of as you mentioned this, I relate so much to this, was
Yeah.
just the fact that I then could not. It got to a place where I could not, because I had learned in my childhood through this whole through the abuse that I had sustained, was that
Mm.
if I upset an adult, they can withdraw affection or attention from me, right? And as a child, I really
Yes.
want that. So if I am by any slight chance, I'm not agreeing with this person, they could do that. And I didn't even realize until I started doing this work that, oh my goodness, there are times when I started doing my own consulting
Mm.
where you would people invite you on a project and get excited about this and this and this that they'd like you to do. This is what
Mm.
the vision, blah blah blah. You buy into the vision, and I would never say, okay, guys, now that we've said all of that, let's get the proposal, let's see the numbers, how many hours, what. I would never do that, man.
Yeah.
I would and work and be at the mercy of whatever they gave me, because I was so scared that they would even take away the opportunity
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be working on a project like this.
Yes, of course. Because what did your inner child know? What did your inner teen know? What had you known from the time you entered this life?
You know?
Was that if an adult is upset, they withdraw affection, they withdraw everything, they get violent. So, and also this comes from the not good enough wounding, right? It's like, I have to be just perfect to get the things that I want. And even if it's not what I want, it's better than nothing because I'm used to having everything taken away.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really, really affects us so deeply because I just know how much it holds you, it holds us back in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember working on a project with a then former colleague, and
Yeah.
the project value was worth 65 million rand. And I was
Wow.
a colleague, and we were co-project managing the project.
Mm.
And we had so many sleepless nights during that time. And Vangelo, when I tell you I walked away with 50,000 rand,
No.
when
No,
I
Yanga.
now I cannot believe it because again, I was just I was just feeling so lucky to get that bit of attention to feel as if someone thought that I was worthy of being
Sure.
here to
Sure.
just that consideration so that the not good enough wound is such it's so deep and it affects us so much, especially when we are trying to grow and expand
Yeah.
financially as well.
Yeah.
Because we really make ourselves small and we really don't show up for our.
Wow. Wow, Yanga. Yo, that is so deep, hey? Yo, I think what I'm getting from this story that you've just shared is that when we don't know our own enoughness, we will never, like how we show up is always going to be as in, just thank you for giving me the opportunity. Even when you're given 10,000 Rand, out of 65 million, I mean, you were given 50,000 Rand, and that's just like, whoa. And I can imagine with a project of that magnitude, the amount of hours and the amount of work that went into it. But wow, this is why we have to heal. Because
This
this we
important. This
because
is so
the fear is so real though. Because you at that you years ago at that point would not like the trauma was so real, was so visceral that it really did feel unsafe to go in and renegotiate your fee. Like that felt too scary and unsafe, I bet.
yeah, I'm so grateful that I started doing this work with you, like specifically around money and around the trauma,
Yeah.
because I then started to become aware
Yeah.
of this behavior when it comes up. And then
Yeah.
not only that, but it started to heal some of just um, the trauma itself, and I started
Mm.
to feel assured
Yeah.
in who I was and just in the fact that what if I am good enough? Like, what if I'm enough, And
Yeah.
then how do I show up then?
Yeah.
And it trauma is a wild trip.
Trauma is a wild trip. Who I am, you know, the most beautiful thing for me is like having Black women on the other end and other women of color, because it's just not, it hasn't just been Black women, but it's also, we've had Kanya on here, who's a man, and just have them talk about how trauma has played out and just share that deep understanding of the body. And because sometimes I keep thinking as you're talking, you will think you'll get this incredible education, get to the top, and you won't know why you're not moving forward. And then we turn around and we say, but it's witchcraft. Someone is holding me back. It's witchcraft. Whereas no. And then we'll say, no, it's even our family. We'll even start suspecting them. No, your family has bewitched you, quote unquote, in some ways, but it's not in the way that you're thinking. It's just that we've just all carried trauma from generation to generation, and now it's playing out, you know? So this is so important to understand, or else we'll be thinking, but why am I not moving ahead? my friend is moving ahead. Why am I not moving ahead? Why is my friend getting paid X amount? Why can't I get paid X amount? And then we think, no, man, definitely something happens to me when I go into a negotiation scenario. Why can't I negotiate? People are doing something to me. Nobody's doing anything to you in most cases. It's that the reason why you can't talk, why you freak out, that is trauma. That is your nervous system going completely ham. So that's when you're like, yes, I'll take whatever I'm given. That is trauma. It is that deep.
But also, like as you're speaking, Vangile, what's coming up for me is that it's so interesting. Trauma is such a complex thing, and I find it very interesting that sometimes someone else might be sitting and thinking, "Oh well, I've never had a upbringing that hectic," you know. So, for example, for me, with the work that I do in villages with the women who work there, like who live there, and with Black women, is that there's this thing of you must know your place, and you
Whew.
are not and you are not given space to say anything. you're
Yeah.
not you're not important except when you're contributing. So bring
Oh.
the wounds and
Even
let's have
within our families, Yanga. Oh my God, you've just taken me, you've just taken us into a different space as well. Like, even within families.
people need your money for funerals, your contribution, but you're not going to be sitting in the meeting. Like it has nothing to do with, like there are these subtle ways which are non quote unquote non-violent
Sure.
that we experience as Black women, or even
Yes.
in the boardrooms, in these corporate spaces, where we are spoken of, that too can be traumatic.
Yes.
And that and we can internalize not good enoughness
Yes.
from being in those spaces.
Whew. You've just said it, hey? My
So it
gosh,
does
you've just said it.
be a big, oh my gosh, I was beaten to hospital. Yeah, you might not be able to relate to that, but our existence as Black
Yes.
women, women of color,
Yes.
globally, the existence
Yes.
of women of color has always been tied, and their value has always been tied
Yes.
to their ability to birth kids and their ability to do the absolute most,
The
being
absolute most. I mean, we even have sayings like, we have
uh,
to be twice as good to get half of what they have. That implies that I am not good enough until I am working twice as hard. Why is it that my presence is not enough, just as I
yeah,
am? So already your presence has to be double, doing the most. You now have to, we call our ancestors when we go into boardrooms. Now we travel, we come as one, but we stand as many. Now our ancestors are also doing work in these spaces for us. Like, it's a lot. One of my friends actually said something funny. She said, you realize that as a Black woman and as a Black person, even as an ancestor, there's no rest for you. So even in death, you're going to be working for the next generation. I was like, please don't remind me of this. 'Cause this is deep, but it's true.
honestly. So this is why I'm just like, this is why I was just like, oh my gosh, I see this. I saw when I started doing this work, and when I started just doing the coaching.
Yeah.
Um because then I was like deliberate in, okay, there are certain areas of my life where I need to be supported and held space for. And I
Yeah.
started to coach with different women that assisted me in those areas to
Yeah.
grow and expand and to heal and etc. And then I
Yeah.
started, because now I was learning about these things, I started to see the parallels between
Sure.
the projects that I'm doing with Black women in the communities and the women that I'm working with in the city.
Yes, because you also work with, because we're not talking a lot about the work that you do as a coach in corporates, right? And now you're also taking clients individually outside of corporate. So that's where you come in with this corporate knowledge.
Mm, mm, mm,
Wow.
mm,
This is so, so deep.
mm.
So
And
tell us more about these parallels between women, because People just always think that being from the village, né, I always get like so fra with people in the city, so frustrated because they tend to think that the village is this weird, wild space where people don't understand things. And I'm always like, but I am from the village. I am a product of the village. You are a product of the village, right? So, what parallels are you seeing between the village and the city? And also, just interestingly, I would love to know what parallels you see from women who grow up in the space in the village, not necessarily with the abuse, and then they go into the city space. How does that affect them? Because I'm sure that has a huge impact on their not good enough wound.
So just like the general one would be, for example, like I said, in the boardroom, you will get spoken over. Like if you're a black woman who's worked in corporate, you will know this too well. And no one is going to hear you. And your opinion is not going to be enough unless they think, even as a professional, having worked in a male dominated space, even as a professional, the men and sometimes not black men will, but just like generally the men will come with this entitlement of, oh, we need coffee, and everyone will kind of look at you and you're like, excuse me, what?
Are you
So
kidding?
well, there's this, like the patriarchy is everywhere, right? And
Oh,
that is
patriarchy.
a problem that leads to women having, so we are black, number one,
Yeah.
so we are oppressed as black people globally because we live in a white supremacist world, right? But
Mm.
also besides that, the world on top of being white supremacist, it's also patriarchal. So
Oh,
that's just an
just like an added
and
bonus on top of everything. Yeah.
yeah. So and then patriarchy and this white supremacy shows itself in different ways in different places. So it's
Mm.
always there in the village, it's in the boardrooms, but it's always there and it shows itself in different ways. So
Mm.
what I've been seeing, for example, with the women in the, it's we don't feel like we have something. We start to internalize the fact that we don't have something worth of value to bring to the table in
Yeah.
our discussions at
Yeah.
home because no one is inviting us there. And even when we are invited there,
Yes.
it's like fuzz.
Yeah.
I mean, people utter those words today in 2020.
Yes.
Not so long ago,
Wow.
I landed in the village and they were like, no, you must bring an uncle or you must bring a brother. Do you not have a husband? I'm like, Batum,
Ah,
2020.
no.
It's still a thing where we are sidelined and we then internalize all of that and
Yeah.
we start a position, quote
Mm.
unquote, in
Yes.
that we in, which causes us
Yes.
to make ourselves small
Mm.
and play small and be invisible and not
Mm.
participate.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
in all of the midst of this, we are constantly doing so much work for other people.
Oh,
Work.
so
Like,
much. So
no,
much.
we have
This
so
is
much work.
why, as you're talking, I'm realizing, but this is why Black women are so hardworking because the thing is that not good enough wound itself also puts us into proving and validation. So you're constantly proving yourself. I've always said, like I say now to students and clients, as you know, if people are asking you to prove yourself, just be like, I'm out. Because if you called me here and you want to work with me, that means that there's something that you have seen. But now you want me to do extra work, jump through all these hoops to prove myself. That is so traumatic. It's re-traumatizing to Black women in particular, you know? And yet we all fall into that trap because it works with our not good enough wound. It just slots right into that wound to, oh, you'll start at half the price today. And then if we like you and you do a good enough job in 3 to 6 months, we will get you up to the normal salary. No, because I'm going to be doing the normal amount of work. Please pay me the normal amount. But then we all often, what we do is we take it. And what do? We don't just do the normal amount, we do double the amount of work because we're trying to prove ourselves.
I mean, also just in a world that already is paying Black women
Yeah.
the least
The least is the least.
to do free work. They start in a world that's already paying you the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why for me, this is so abusive. And this is why I'm so in favor of the work that you do, particularly focusing on the not good enough wound. I love that you're focusing on this wound in particular for women of color, because what we're not understanding is that the world already thrives on that wounding, already comes at us from that, oh, they'll word it so that we prove ourselves, we jump through hoops, we do the very most, etc., right? And so we then play into that because we already, that is a language that speaks to that part of us that is wounded. So then we get attracted to that and we're like, yeah, I'm going to prove myself. Definitely. They think I can't do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove myself. And I'm always like, there's an easier way to do this. You can just go to a place that doesn't require you to prove yourself, that isn't telling you you can't do it, that isn't asking you to start at half price, that is just seeing you at where you are, doesn't require you to do the most, just loves you as you are. But we get attracted to these places that I want to say abusive because they work with our trauma wounds, and the not good enough wound is so deep, so exactly what you've just said.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What else? It happens. It's such a rookie cycle because then Black women don't rest because now we
Yes.
out ourselves. Na 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 na.
Yeah.
We don't achieve balance, so we're not there for our kids. We don't. We can't take.
Amen.
And all of this comes from the not good enough wounds, and as a result,
Yes.
it's illnesses. We don't
Yes.
even have time. Like Black women, even in corporate, don't have enough time for themselves. Like gym,
Yes. Yes.
making your own nutritious meals. We
Yes.
struggle with like the statistics are incredibly high for Black women, especially in Black community in Black communities, with diabetes and all these health
Yeah.
related issues.
Yeah.
So it's not only just that, but it's just all these other things that come from this one
It's
sense of.
everything.
And then once you start to heal that, which is part of the work that I do and have been doing, you really start to shift.
Yeah. You really, really do.
It is so interesting that you can start to take some time off and start saying no to all these free projects, rest and
Yeah.
yourself, and
Yeah.
salary. I kid you not.
I know. And that will be my next question about like how when we started working together and you started healing the not good enough wound and you just started working on yourself. Let's just jump right into that. How has your income changed? And I love what you've just said. And how have the amount of hours you work changed? Because I think that we tie income to more work. So tell us. So you've tripled your income.
So, number one, I don't even like. I definitely don't work the same number of hours anymore. And also,
Yeah.
I just realized that all the work that I used to do wasn't even. It was just the being busy. So,
Yes.
excuse me. Sometimes when you are deliberate with your time, you spend it. You start to realize that actually, I wasn't even doing anything important. I was just busy being busy.
Yeah, boy.
Because that's what I
Yes.
need to be seen doing, right?
Yeah.
I told you the story of how my dad was such a strong workaholic, strong work ethic man, and he would wake up. So he grew up in a household where they used to work on his dad's farm. So his
Yeah.
dad used to get up at the crack of dawn, and they would have to work and all of those things. So he still was in this was the 90s, and he was still like, wake up, get busy, like, why are you chilling? Do you not have anything to do?
Yeah.
So So the joke in the household was that whenever one of us could see his car coming, act busy, guys, act busy because this guy is going to find something for you to do, right?
Yeah.
We're not even being productive, quote unquote.
Yeah.
We're just acting busy, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what society needs to see a woman doing. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even love in black societies is like, oh no, but how are you gonna find a husband? But anyways, so
Let's not forget that with the 3 foot parts and yeah, like who's gonna marry you if you are not waking up and cooking, if you are not doing all these things and just busy. Yo,
bringing
guys, we even have to pay for love. Please just no, I can't.
money, be a strong black woman, bring in the money, bring the kids, bath the kids, take them
Yeah,
to sport. Be a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
that's what you like. Wow, it's so traumatic. So,
yeah,
so what I started doing is that when we started doing the work around specifically not good enough about it, sorry, and about like also just around my childhood trauma,
yeah,
um, and linking that work to money and the goals that I had for money,
yeah.
and doing challenge that you host, which is like incredible.
The
Um,
income challenge, guys, which is in the Money Magic course, hint.
it is. Oh, yeah, of course. So which is in the bank account challenge, you know.
Yeah,
I then was just like, okay, so let's see. How do I want to work? You know, how do
yeah,
I feel like it's work for me? And like I mean, I had recently told you that I had just signed up to a coach who does a do less sort of type of thing. But
yeah.
anyways, I was starting to really be intentional about not working as much and not working as hard.
Yes, yes.
But wanting to see how it was that I could start growing and expanding financially, right?
Mm,
And then started working less, breaking down what it is that I absolutely needed to do. Where could I free
mm,
up? Where would it better be spent delegating the work to someone else?
yeah,
Versus me, you know, holding my time up doing all of that work, which ultimately doesn't really give me the returns that it makes sense, you know, for me to
yeah,
be doing that. And resting and going to gym and going hiking and finding space for all these things that fill me up.
yeah,
But not only that, but like so doing the work in that sense and doing all of these things, I
yeah.
suspect has raised me vibrationally. Because the people I speak to in
Yes.
terms of my pricing, because I no longer have issues with that. So
Yeah, I love it.
I do have issues. Wealthy Money course has got
Yeah.
resources. Like it literally is like a Bible, guys. So like every up in the middle of the night, it's a panic attack about this. Like you can literally, without waking Vangile up, you can quickly go online and find a resource to just center yourself.
Yeah, this
So
is true.
yeah, it doesn't matter what issue you're experiencing at the time, you know. So I
Yeah,
was just like, I would use that information as well and those resources,
yeah,
and find myself to be able to be at a place where okay, cool. This is the work that I'm creating.
yeah,
I'm doing of the I work on projects that I want to work on, but also
yeah.
I'm just with the people who want to work with me on those projects. You know,
Mm,
they get it. They get the value that I bring, but
yeah.
also so I don't have to over explain.
Over
I think
explain, and I think we've been taught that we need to over motivate. Every time, anytime anyone comes to me and does that, even by email, explain your course to me, do this. I'm just like, here's the link. If you don't understand, you can ask some questions, but please do not ask me to do an entire emotional labor. Everything is on the site, everything is on the course. And when they get me into that space of wanting, I need to over explain, I pause. I take a step back and I'm like, maybe they're not my ideal client yet for now. So, yeah, so what you've just said is so powerful. Often we're taught that you need to, again, it comes from the not good enough wound, right? Like you need to prove yourself to the client. But what if you don't have to? When I started healing, just like you with the not good enough wound, I stopped trying to prove, stopped trying to motivate for my clients. I just showed up as is. And even now, if you look at a lot of my content, it's like, are you ready to do this? Is this resonating? Because I'm trusting that, you know what? I've done so much work energetically that I am beaming to the people that want my work. I don't have to manipulate, I don't have to over explain. I just have to be me. And
Yeah.
that's when the magic really starts to happen, because that's when you get your tribe, you get your people, you get the projects that make you come alive.
Mm, mm, mm. And I mean, that has also just been one of the benefits, truly. And I think you said something to me in a coaching session this one time that um, that stuck with me for a very that will probably stick with me for a very long time also. And that was just around, what if the people that you want to work with are ready to work with you? You don't need to convince them, you don't need to show them, you don't need to. When you speak of the not good enough wound and the different ways in which it impacts us, and they just get it, they just like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
and that really shifted a lot for me, because I was just like, whoa.
yeah,
This entire time, like, also this conditioning of just having to prove, having to prove,
yeah,
having to prove, the entire
yeah.
time, like, convince people. No, no, not.
Yes. Right? And that's why you see a lot of us go to get we need a degree, we need a certification. So even though you know the knowledge, you've got it. No, but I need this extra certification, then I need this certification on top of that before I can even start, before I can even work with anyone else, because I need to prove to people. No, like, what if you, as you, is enough? Just as you are enough, and your people will look at you and sense that and be like, this is my person. I need nothing else from her, just her. And ultimately, those are the best clients. Those are the most awesome clients that we all should want to work with. But we go into proving mode, and guess what? That's when we end up with awful clients that want us to keep proving, because that's how we got them. We were proving ourselves, so they insist on us constantly proving ourselves to begin with.
I mean, the interesting thing about the concept of just constantly buying into, excuse me, the scam of having to constantly prove yourself is the fact that it's not in your control. Like, you can't measure how much proving you need to do for them to be satisfied. What if they never,
Mm,
you know? And I mean, as someone who has experienced childhood trauma in the way that I explained, what was
yeah,
interesting is I could do absolutely anything. Like,
yeah.
right, do my hardest at school, blah, 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 just for one. Okay, well done. And then the thing is, it's just that one well done that keeps you wanting to do that more and more. Like, you never
Yeah.
get really what you're looking for. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
honestly not even worth your attention to be putting yourself in that position,
And
because you
it's
really
exhausting. It's so exhausting, hey? Like this, I remember when I was doing the proving mode for people, like to get clients, to build wealthy money. And that's why I got off, because I was like, this is exhausting me. If it, let's just try a different way. But when I was on that trend, I must do A, B, C, D. I need to do the most. I must be my most innovative. What am I going to say today that's going to just wow people? Oh my God. And then it's like, I noticed that I was slowly moving further and further away from what my soul really wanted to say, what my soul really wanted to do. So I'd started a business with the hopes of being in alignment with my soul and to follow my soul and not to have to follow corporate values or anything else, but to do something that I felt was in line with what my soul was trying to bring through. And instead, what I was then doing is exactly that. I was in proving mode, and to prove myself meant that I had to be living according to other people's standards, instead of, yeah, because they set the goalpost of what is good enough, right? So I'm trying to measure up to that goalpost, but it never comes, but that's not what my soul is here to do. So it was constantly taking me further and further away from my purpose, which is why I got off that treadmill. I was like, let's try a different way altogether. So, and just like you, what shocked me was that the different way, once, as you, obviously it's hard, I'm not making it, I feel like we may make it seem easy, but as you do the work around not good enough, it becomes easier to take the different way. What often happens when we're reacting from the trauma space, why we will come back to the treadmill because we haven't healed we haven't healed the trauma. So we'll get off and come back on, get off, come back on, because we're still not fully healed. But as we start to really go deeper, start to heal the trauma, what often happens is we are able to completely get off the treadmill. And that's when you're like, I'm done with the proving. It's like, it just can't continue, So that's so, so powerful. And I just, pardon?
The healing work, which is something that I just want to put out to someone who might be listening, right?
Yeah.
It's so layered.
Yeah.
So I don't believe you can ever be at a point where you've arrived,
This is true. Very true.
Past, yeah. And you start to see shift.
Yes.
You go that layer and you start to see a shift. You go past,
Amen.
even if the shift is just your awareness.
Yes.
Also impacts and influences your behavior. And you go there and you shift. And all these small shifts, when 5 months, 6 months down the line, you look back and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Bringing awareness into this area.
Yeah.
This area.
Yeah.
Like the culmination of all of that.
Yeah.
As you start the progress.
Yes.
Live progress at any stage of your healing journey.
Yes. And I love what you've just said, Yanga, because it's like you said, you started on the not good enough wound, like in 2015, you started with therapy, you've been working on it. I started on a not good enough and vows of invisibility and the mother wound and the father wound, like about in 2011. Doesn't mean I've had brilliant coaches, just like you, right? And the truth is, what happens is that you go from layer to layer to layer, right? It's not, and what I think we come from a society that says, well, I go into this and in 1 month, I'm going to be totally healed. In another year, I'm going to be completely healed. No, because I always say to people, if my inner child and my inner teen experienced abuse for 17 years, in a year, it's going to be very difficult to unlayer 17 years of programming that then affected me throughout my 20s. And luckily, I started doing the inner work and coaching in my mid-20s. So thank God. But then, up until my mid-20s, before I started doing the work and getting my own coach, then and I also had therapy, right? I had a psychologist at the age of 14, but it's still, all those layers are still there and we're still going back to them, because it's not like abuse happened, had a schedule, my mom will just abuse me on a Saturday. So it's just Saturdays. It was any time of the day was go time. It could happen for hours in a day. Some days nothing is happening. I get a reprieve. Other days, something is happening. And those prolonged periods, it was hard for my nervous system to integrate all that, to digest it, to heal it. So now it's like, I'm still trying to digest these millions, and there are millions of them, I'm sure, because so much happened, right? Like, how many hours was I spending at home up until I was 17? All those millions of incidents I'm trying to digest, and all of them, my inner child, my inner teen, my subconscious mind has basically digested or programmed itself in a particular way because of those incidents, and now it's wired itself in a different way physically, and energetically, and now it's trying to unwire.
But also not only that, so as we do the work of like trying to heal all those 17 years, like you say, we still don't exist in a vacuum. We still exist
Yes.
in society in the context
Yeah.
where women of color are treated a certain type of way. So
Yeah.
we can't be re-traumatized. Um,
Yes.
systemic, um,
Yes.
different ways that we are excluded.
Amen. Yeah.
Such that you cannot afford to not be doing the work at any point in your life.
Yeah.
Like your friends, I mean, even when you're an ancestor, they'll
Yeah. Like, like literally most of us are doing the work now so that future generations don't colonize all the time in the afterlife, so that we can just rest and take a break. Because now we're calling on our ancestors a lot and doing the most, waking them up and everything, because they don't get to do the work. So now they have to co-do the work with us. I mean, like, we laugh about this, but this is actually the truth, because they didn't do the work. Now we have to do the work, and they also have to come to the party. So, no, sir, you don't get to sleep. No, ma'am. You are coming here to help heal the next generation. But as we do this work, we may get like some time to rest. We may be like that ancestor that's just like, yeah, we did it when we were alive. We set things right for future generations. So we're called like 5% of the time, and 95% of the time we're doing our own thing in the ancestral realm. Because I sure hope to be that ancestor. I'm like, please, guys, like, I'm doing the work for future generations now. So, Yanga, how has your relationship with money and letting money sit in the bank changed? Because when you started, you were telling us how, like, as soon as money came in, you would spend it. How has that changed as you started to heal?
So definitely now, like for example, a month and a half ago,
Yeah.
my partner and I actually invested in a very big project, exciting project. We'll keep it a secret, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
invested in a very big project. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I would have never been able to dream
Yeah.
that I could have been able to, you know, raise the capital to invest in this,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And nothing about my story, nothing about my background had said that I could play or even think that I could play that big, right? Because what I
Yes.
realized that it was also just limiting my imagination and
Mm.
how what I could and couldn't do in the world. Could be like, yeah, you could be an entrepreneur, but like, like apartment yana, Santon or wherever, and like
Yeah.
drive a car and
Yeah.
and then like to really, really think and dream about owning something that I could have, I don't know anyone in my friend circle owns. And then it could,
Yeah.
or anyone that I've met personally, it's
Yeah.
probably somewhere a boss of a boss of someone else. Then
Yeah.
I was just really has changed my way in that way. And I
Yeah.
think also at the same time, it's also changed the fact that because I'm able to now let money sit in my bank account, um,
Mm.
it helps in it, so sorry, not only does it help in investing, like being able to invest, haven't been
Yeah.
able to, I haven't focused so much on saving more now because of this like investment that's just gone out. But
Yeah.
definitely helping me be believe that I'm worthy of being paid the full value for my services
Yes.
and
Yes.
for what I bring, you know.
Yes.
And also just not the money, it not only just the money, but like the beliefs around it, you know, that's associated
Mm,
to my trauma and to my experiences with money. That
yeah.
has shifted a
Wow.
lot. Um,
Wow.
and some of my business associates about some of the work that I'm doing. I just realized that, oh my goodness, I think so differently about money.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm joking, but like, I think very differently about money, about how to
Yeah.
make money, about what is keeping me back from holding from making money. Because like sometimes I know other women are like, oh no, but why would he charge that? And I
Yes.
realize that,
That's no longer a thing for you, right?
yeah,
Yeah, like I know what you mean about that. It's like, yeah, guys, no, that's, I remember times when recently I can see myself, I'm like, but that actually should not be the hurdle. Like that amount of money cannot be the hurdle to stop us from getting from here to here, you know. And that's where the shifts around money come from. I think once you realize that, I think as we start to heal our own traumas, it's like money stops being the hurdle between us and our dreams, or between us and going for the things that we want. And I think that we grow up in a society that has normalized money as a hurdle, you know?
mm,
So that is so common. But as we start to heal and start to shift, because we start to change how we see ourselves, you know. And I think that's a big thing around healing. It's not just that we are healing ourselves, is that trauma alters the way that we perceive ourselves, the way that we see ourselves. So if we have a not good enough wound, which almost every woman of color has, you know, it's like because of societal things and all that we've just discussed, it alters the way that we perceive ourselves in relation to anything, and in particular in relation to money, to opportunities, to challenges, to possibility. Once we start to change our concept of self and start to see our own enoughness, and like you say, tapping into our own magic and our own limitlessness, well, now you are looking at a being in the mirror that is magic and limitless, you know? So anything becomes possible. A being that understands their own magic, understands their own infinity, can now tap into tons of possibilities. So I think that is the sadness of trauma. And I think that's what is so critical about why we need to heal, not just for us, but for future generations, because oppression, multiple different types of oppression, be it in our households and on a macro scale within our societies, have altered the way that we perceive ourselves, which impacts our ability to go after our income goals. So healing can be, is that profound thing that starts to even change how we see ourselves and our place in the world.
I mean, totally. And also like with you saying that it become like I don't think there's an opportunity for any woman of color to not say that they want to take the work because of like money, for example.
Yeah.
Because like you said, that the return on investment,
Yes.
the return on investment,
Yeah.
like suddenly once you start to heal and once you start to shift, like honestly, you are just like
why did I not do this earlier, right? I remember the first time I got a coach. I mean, I had no clue that there were such things as life coaches because I'd only known psychologists and therapists. So I was like, I had no clue that there were such things as coaches. So then when I started working with coaches, I was like, dude, why are people not like doing this? And I realized that the reason why most of us don't take it on is because we grow up in a society that teaches us about savings versus investing for expansion. So we always like when we hear the pricing, we freak out. And then we think of what we're losing versus what we're gaining. So why for you and I, when we look at coaching and courses, it's a no-brainer, is because we have seen what the return on investment is. The doing the work and starting with the coaches and the courses and doing the healing, we've seen that, oh no, this is a no-brainer. The return is like so much more. So that's why. But for most people, it's always going to be about, oh my God, the cost of this doesn't quite balance. But that's because of the society that we come from. And it's almost like we have to make that giant leap for ourselves. Every individual has to make that giant leap of faith for themselves to understand a return on investment. And for many people, it may take, for some people, it takes months. Some people, it takes a few hours, days. Usually for me, it takes days. Like I see a coach, I'm like, that's the one, days sorted. But again, I've been on this journey a while. So I understand that it's an investment. So, and then for some people, it may take years and years because it just doesn't compute because they haven't started the healing journey in earnest the way that we're talking about it. But once they do, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Yanga, what are the three takeaways that you've had from coaching or coaching with me or from the Money Magic course that have shifted your relationship with money or your mindset around money?
Okay, so when you start to do the healing work, it's almost like you start to fall in alignment with who you
Yeah.
are,
Mm.
and then your energetic vibrations, they just how do I say? I don't want to sound too like woohoo, but like legit, your energetic vibration starts to call your things to you.
Mm.
Your coins start to find you. Um, your work, but like when you start to fall in alignment with yourself, uh,
Yes.
when you start to really meet yourself and really start to live your truth and in true alignment and
Mm.
feel. Energetically, I think there is something special that happens where you start to meet people and where the
Yeah.
universe brings people who have different conversations with you. Um,
Mm.
you start to know things that you previously didn't know that you just
Yeah.
find, and you just
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I've got this idea, and you start to really tap into your own limitlessness and just your own magic, and you really start to live from that place
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
just really understanding how to ask to consult your higher self for how to do things. I
Yeah.
think the reason why I'm saying it might sound a bit woo is because I just realized that, oh my gosh, like if you anyone has ever read the book The Alchemist, you know,
Yeah. I love that book.
looking for books, no, and then they find out it's at their backyard. I feel like for me the coaching journey is literally that. So we live in this society that refers us to the external for everything.
Mm.
You're like, oh, I than me. It keeps holding space for you to go back to you, to go back to you,
Mm.
to go back to you, and you really, really start to learn to tap into that space, and you start to trust that,
Mm.
you start to live from that space, and you start, and as you start to trust that space, you start to see um, you start to see reward, and you start to listen to your intuition, and you start to realize that you have all these other gifts that the Western world doesn't really acknowledge, right?
Yes.
And that are there to sort of help us in our journey. It's almost like we were all born with a blueprint, and
Yes.
be raised in a society that completely acknowledges that and comes with a fake map, and they're like, hey, here you go.
This is so, so true. I think that we have been taught that everything is external, which is why it's so it's so counterintuitive when I say to people, when anyone says to us, listen, to increase your income, you may not want to work twice as hard in the traditional sense in your business, but you may want to spend more time going within and healing the traumas within, and then just maybe resting and taking a chill pill. You know, it's like, oh my God, there is no way. People can't compute that because we're taught to hustle, because counterintuitively, it's that it is external out there. I need to do more out there, and then it will happen here. And then, like, I see a lot of people even saying on social media, you need to show people that you're working hard so that they know that it's not easy money. Like nobody said it was easy. People are just saying, take a different route, and that route is healing. And healing is not affirmations, it's not visualization. It's about going into the dark spaces. And sometimes it will cripple you for a day. And that's why it's the hard work, in my view, right? It's not that you're going to hustle out there, but you're going within. And some of these things, as you raise your hand, Yanga, right? It's like, it may floor you for like a day, sometimes a week. I know you know that, right? I've been floored by some things for like a month, but because of the healing work, things are happening. There's a growth that does happen externally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not about the money. I
Yeah.
mean, I know when I first came to course, I was like, okay, what is it about? Like, okay, then what is it about? Money. Yeah, so that's
I'm
definitely,
going
and
to
also,
take that as the second takeaway. It's not about the money, because it really isn't. And I know, like, Klatika, as you were saying that, she was saying the other time to me, she's like, Van, I finally get it after like months of coaching. She's like, I promise you, when I started, and then you referred me to the Money Magic course, I was listening to you tell me this is not about the money. And she was like, I literally signed up for the money, and this woman is telling me it's not about the money. Like, she was just like,
well, I signed up to a money coach. I'm like, girl, are you kidding me? And I mean, I was just like, wait, when are we going to actually see the spreadsheet? Like,
yeah, like you were like, is this ever going to yield financial results for me? This is the thing. One of my other clients said to me, Van, you managed to more than quadruple my income without ever getting me to bring out a calculator. And I was like, that's because you already knew what was going on in your business. What were we going to calculate that you didn't already know? You've been running your business for a longer time than me. So clearly, the fact that you've been running this business says to me that you know something about the business. So it's not about the money, you know?
I mean, honestly, like I say, we are so conditioned to rely on the external. So I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I have this money coach. She's got this MBA from the States. Like, surely, hey, we're going to have terminology.
We're going to whip out Excel and do that. Meanwhile, it's like, nope, that is not the issue. And then you find yourself working less and making more. And it's like, I haven't once brought out a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And also, like, I want to make healing sound glamorous because sometimes it's excruciating.
It
You know,
is.
you literally have to do work that sometimes takes you back to that little girl,
Yeah.
you know, who was experiencing all of these things.
Yeah.
And it literally brings it back to the now,
Yeah.
and it becomes such a tough, it's tough.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
do that work, but it's so worth it. It is so
Yeah.
worth it. Like I said, it's not even just about healing so that you can expand financially,
Yeah.
but it's all these other benefits that you get. You know,
Yeah.
just resting as a black woman, guys, I think it's going to be a foreign thing. I mean,
Yeah.
have family to take care of, and they just want to live their best lives, rest, sit in a hammock, go hiking, do whatever
Mm.
it is that just to really own their time and
Yes.
own their stories and what they want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like a gift. It is such a gift that keeps giving because, like,
Yeah.
even health, like I say, you start to see certain changes in your body when you start
Mm.
to, physiologically. So it's
Yes.
truly just such a gift. I talk about how expanding financially and being able to talk in the board, like, negotiate and your prices and all of that.
Yeah.
But honestly, like being able to accept yourself, not feeling like you
Whew.
have to be who you are, like
Mm.
just really, it's just so freeing. It's
Yeah.
so to really be like, oh my God.
Yeah. I
I don't
agree. With the panic attacks that I would have, I would wake up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like shaking and panicking in my adult life. And I didn't know because I didn't know about trauma. We don't talk about it. So, and that was such a small and simple thing. But how do you tell someone that that is something that you want to heal? And I thought, I'm just this freak of nature, right? Like I just wake up and I'm shaking and I can't go back to sleep. And then I have to will myself to sleep. And then when it started to decrease, where like now it's like I say, it's happening once a quarter or when I'm super triggered. But then now it's my sign that, oh, something is happening. There's another layer of trauma that's coming up. I need help with this and I need to figure out what it is. So now I'm using it as my signal. But that is priceless. There's some things that there's no price to something like that. Like, wow, like I sleep throughout the night. Hello, priceless. Like, that's just a fact.
I mean,
Yeah.
even that's what I'm saying, that it's a gift, guys. It's a gift that keeps giving because you
Mm,
just spend financially, which is why you're here, but
yeah.
also at the same time you have all these other benefits that
Yeah.
um to experience, right? And
Yeah.
with talking about like sleeping and waking up at night, oh, I remember I used to suffer from these dreams where I would just dream that like my mother is yelling and she's shouting and she's beating me up. Um, and for in these dreams, something interesting would happen. So I would run away. And
Yeah.
then as I run, like I would start to fly, like to
Yeah.
escape her. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it was me just like a coping mechanism or what. And
Yeah.
then I'd in that moment, I'd be like, shucks. And I'd be
Yeah.
screaming and I'd tense. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, oh my God,
Sure. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that a partner of mine had experienced anything okay. And I had to explain this that hey, sometimes these things happen, and this is
Yeah.
why. And this is what I would guys if never almost explain Angoku because kunzima.
You
Like
know, because people are not understanding what is your deal. Like, what are
what
you on about? Like, literally, like my coach has had me, like my relationship coach now has me explain when I go into relationships that, listen, dude, I have a thing about safety. These are the things that trigger me around safety, and this is why. It's this is the thing. It's like trauma changes us. So for a normal person, what could be just a normal conversation, things going great, for me could be taking me into the depths of trauma and re-triggering me and completely shutting me down. So this is why these conversations have to be had. So I agree, but like I've also found, just like you, that the more that I heal, the less I have to have these conversations, because now I've healed, I'm starting to integrate that. I now also understand my traumas and my triggers. So as I see them coming, I don't get hijacked by that inner child or inner teen and completely lose it and have a meltdown. I'm able to step in as the adult and say, whew, okay, I need a minute. I am currently triggered. Please just give me a few hours and we'll come back and have this conversation, without me having to completely lose it and having to explain a whole bullet point list. So again, things that are so priceless, you can't explain this, because now you're almost a normal human being. It's like, this is exciting to me and it's priceless. So yeah, no, I get it. This is the thing with healing. I guess this is what you mean when you say it brings you back to yourself. Like, it brings you back to, I imagine, who you were originally as a soul, had you not been so deeply wounded, you know?
Also, just I think there's a transgression to our souls
Yeah.
when we keep denying ourselves.
Oh, that's deep. Yes. Yes.
There's a transgression to our souls when we keep denying ourselves. And I also think there's a transgression even to our ancestors when we keep denying.
Yes.
When there's a
Yeah.
transgression to the universe
Yes. I agree. I
that you
agree
are
with this.
right and you keep denying yourself every single time. So it
Yeah.
is, and I mean, you do it to survive, right?
Yes. I mean, almost everything we do is to survive.
That is so true. But also, this is why, like, I appreciate the way that you deal with trauma like this, particularly
Yeah.
with Black women, because Black women don't want to have these conversations. There aren't any spaces to
Yeah.
have these conversations. And for
Yeah.
someone to hold space for you, and
Yeah.
for you to go through your healing process
Yeah.
with someone who space for you in this way.
Yeah.
I've mentioned to you before. I mean, I've coached with a number of coaches in South Africa, mostly outside of South Africa, because some of this work just
Yeah.
like it wasn't. I don't think it's reached us yet. I think we really still are, you know, that whole okay, cool. Bring a spreadsheet. Write down 5 bullet points. What are your tips
Yes.
to action this? Da, 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 da. Not dealing with the healing of your
Yeah.
trauma, but just saying, okay, cool, these are the issues, and
Yeah.
let's on a surface level, which is
Yes.
why your work is so important because it really goes deep, right?
Yes.
It goes deep,
Yeah.
deep,
Yeah.
really, really deep, going there to that dark place that
Yeah,
everyone
and I
else.
think a lot of coaches, and I notice there is this fear of going into the dark spaces, right? And I wouldn't recommend it, because having worked with me, if you don't know enough about trauma and this work, and you don't know what you're doing, it can be incredible, because you can open up past life portals, you can open up ancestral portals. Or the other thing is that your clients can have intense physical experiences. I mean, wow, you and I have had like a lot of interesting sessions where, like, there is a lot happening physically, and to be able to help a person transition past that nervous system response is also super important, so that we don't. And I think I'll always say this is why my working with women of color, I don't have a time limit, because trauma doesn't have a time limit. If my client's nervous system is going berserk, there's no way I can leave them with a nervous system that is now completely heightened, completely open, where we are not ending the trauma loop. Because often that is also the important thing, is that we need to end the trauma loop. And there's a lot that happens in sessions that opens up trauma in the body and the nervous system, and our entire body goes haywire. So we need to do work on the body as well. So it's so, so important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a thing, right? So I just found that a lot of the so at least now there are spaces where conversations around trauma
Yeah.
is happening. I
Yeah.
mean, I that I do um food trauma, for example, like she deals with.
Yes.
So at least now, there are coaches who are accessible to help
Yes.
with around the different types of traumas and how it affects you in different ways, right?
Yeah.
And I just find that to me because I'm just like, oh my gosh, are all my problems under the sun trauma related? You know,
Often, yeah.
I'm like, are these all my problems? You know, that is so important to me to do what, because also like through my own research and through my own work of coaching with all these coaches, I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. I was
Yeah.
trying to lose weight after I had gained 30 kilograms of weight when
Yeah.
I was in the worst that I'd been in terms of like my mental health. And I
Yes.
wanted to lose weight. So I found a food trauma coach.
Yeah.
And he also did put me back into terms of like just dealing with the trauma, the story
Yes.
and that sort of thing. So like now also just working with another coach who's dealing around the trauma of working too hard and that sort of thing. So you
Yes.
really need these resources and you really need all these people to hold
Yeah.
space for you
Yeah.
to solidify the areas that you want to focus on
Yes.
and grow and learn, you know,
Yeah.
and continuously be evolving and continuously becoming better. I mean, it is so interesting to me, the knowledge that is available in terms of how women can optimize even like their physiological bodies
Yeah.
for manifesting, if you will, quote
Yeah.
unquote. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love all that you've said. And just like you, right? Like I've just mentioned that I've got a relationship coach. I've got a trauma coach. I've got a business coach. My trauma coach is also my business coach, but then I have a like completely separate business coach who doesn't do trauma work, but does more work around asking very your traditional coaching questions. And I don't want to say traditional coaching questions because she's actually so phenomenal. She asks like emotional questions that get you to go deeper, but basically your normal coaching model around business. And then like sometimes she'll trigger me, then I go to my trauma coach and I work with them all consistently throughout, like constantly. So it's not like I'm just working 1 month with this one. No, like I am seeing these women consistently every month. And that's because different aspects of my life call for different types of support. So my business coach definitely, maybe she could do relationship coaching. Who knows? I don't know. She probably doesn't know. But my relationship coach is informed in that she works with my trauma around relationshiping, be it friendships, be it work related, be it romance. That's what she works with me. That's what she works on with me. And I can see how phenomenal it has been. So there's different support systems, and there's no harm in actually having all these support structures. I also have a fitness trainer, like I'm not a fitness junkie or fitness guru. So, like, she gets me to do stuff. Like, Lungi will say random things like, give yourself 20 seconds of courage. We're doing a fitness thing, but it works, because she knows whatever the heck she's doing to work with my mind to make me believe that this requires courage, you know. So it's that. So I love that you've just said that. They're like, all these support systems, they help heal us and heal us in different areas of our lives. So I really recommend that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Yanga, someone has been listening and is like, oh my God, I need to contact this woman. this woman, my not good enough wound is on steroids. By the way, guys, I am fully booked for one-on-one coaching. Yanga is taking one-on-one clients. Contact her. She is doing trauma work around not good enough. We've just had a whole session on not good enough. How do people reach you for one-on-one work?
Yeah. So I've just started being on social media just so that people can see me. So on Instagram, I am deliberate with Yanga, Yanga. On Facebook, I am Yanga Stuurman. Or you
Yeah.
can pop me an email on yangastuurman90@gmail.com
Yeah.
or at yanga@deliberateconsulting.africa. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Yanga. This has been incredible.
Amazing. And also, just like I actually want to say something before I leave, hey, in response to what you said just before, that one of the things that I really like about coaching with you is the fact that you have coaches who are constantly coaching you, because of that, I find that you're constantly tweaking and changing the courses, so the courses
Yes,
don't stay the same. So there's
yes,
constantly more value being added
yes.
as you do your own work. So that is
Yeah,
something that I particularly love about
yeah.
because I know that sometimes it's just like, oh, now I'm a coach, I've arrived, and then it's just like, if I took the course last year, I can't take the course this year because
Mm,
you know.
mm, yeah. Because even for me, right, like I'm constantly being pushed to the edge with my own coaches and I'm having insights. And what I also love about my coaches, right, is that they encourage me to create my own body of work around that. Because they'll be like, maybe you should go. Oh, I see that this is an issue for you. Maybe this is what I would suggest you do, but maybe sit and based on your work, create something that will help you heal this particularly. And then maybe you can give it to your students. So
Yeah.
powerful. And honestly, like you've been saying, right? Like the value of healing and coaching isn't that I'm arriving. It's that the reason why I have these coaches is because I am living in this world that is constantly, as a Black woman, throwing microaggressions at me, constantly telling me certain things about myself. So I need to be constantly working through that and healing that. And of course, some of the things land and they feel like such deep truths because they connect with the wounded parts of me. So even if those things are toxic to believe, parts of me will hold on to it and believe them because the external world is saying them, but they also hitting and connecting with the wounded parts. So those wounded parts bond with them. When I go into the coaching sessions with my coaches, it's like, wow, they help me see that this is actually not a normal belief to hold on to. It's not necessary. Can you please, can we heal it? Can we let it go? And that's where the aha moments come from. Just like having someone else who can hold that space and show us that actually what we think is normal is not really normal, and that there is no such thing as a normal belief. Like, I know when I started business, like it felt normal to me to, you get taught in the MBA program and even in finance that every business needs to make a loss for the first 3 years. So you're working from the loss and then you work hard. And you don't realize that actually you go into the business world with that belief that that is normal, until I had coaches that are like, why is this normal?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just make a profit from the jump? It's like, it doesn't work like that. And then they were like, but says who? Because we normalize a lot of things that should not be normalized. And having coaches, having even a tribe where people are thinking differently is just life changing, because you start to shift the way you change and see the world. You start to shift the way you see the world.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Yanga. And thank you yeah. And guys, I'm going to send you all of Yanga's details in the email, right? If you couldn't catch anything here of how to get hold of her, shoot me a message. I'll send you those details. And if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I really want the constant resources of the Creating Money Magic course, lifetime access. I want to start working on creating an extra stream of income without the narrative of hard work. And right now, I'm working with the students to create a stream of income that allows them to make 40,000 Rand or $2,500 a month. So if you are not yet there, this is a great start. And if you are, you join the course and then you instantly work on doubling your current income, especially with the income challenge and also the bank account challenge, life changing. So if this is resonating with you and you are so ready to get started, then definitely check out wealthy-money.com/money magic. Again, wealthy-money.com/money magic. If you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, you or even on Instagram, you will find all the details in the description. So just look at the description below this video and the link will be there or above this video, wherever in the description, the link to the Money Magic course will be there. Thank you guys. I will see you next week with my next guest. Thank you once more, Yanga.
Thank you so much, Vangile. Cheers. Have a good night.
Good night.